Stanza 1. There are many ways of taking omens which are still practiced by the Persians. Concerning astrology and geomancy, Mr. Brown questioned a learned Persian and received the reply that there was positive proof of their truth. The Persian added, however, that the study of these sciences was very difficult, and many who professed to be acquainted with them were mere charlatans. While symbolic way of speaking is not the same thing as saying, I know the future and the unseen because I have, while there may be ways of, the reactions that you get out of yourself and others when you go through certain symbolic lists and stuff like this. This is, but it's different than the soothsaying art. It's not quite the same thing. It can include it. The words do include that. But many dreams also, he said, were capable of interpretation and might furnish indications to events which were yet to come. Mr. Brown relates that he consulted a geomancer who by means of dice gave him much information as to his future, none of which has as yet been justified by the event, but on being asked to perform the less difficult task of answering some questions as to his past, turned the conversation into other channels. I discussed, says the traveler, the occult sciences with several of my friends to discover as far as possible the prevailing opinion among them. One of them made use of the following argument to prove their existence. God, he said, has no buccal avarice. It is impossible for him to withhold from any one a thing for which he strives with sufficient earnestness. Just as if a man devotes all his energies to the pursuit of spiritual knowledge, he attains to it. So if he chooses to make occult sciences and magical powers the object of his aspirations, they will surely not be withheld from him. A year among the Persians is where that quote. That last bit of that is from. An omen can be taken by opening the Quran or some other well-accredited book, the Divan of Hafiz among the number. Pricking a pin into the page, don't do that with sacred writ, and following whatever directions can be drawn from the verse thus indicated. This method is frequently used before setting out upon a journey. The stars are consulted in order to select a favorable day for embarking upon any enterprise. Certain stars having special influence over men. The influence of the moon, for instance, is dangerous to life, and one of the stars in the constellation of Cassiopeia is of evil presage. Besides these omens, divinations are taken from the movements and position of certain animals and birds and from various passing events. To meet a one-eyed man is of a bad omen, especially if he is blind of the left eye, or to hear an unlucky word on setting out from your house of a morning. Lane, in one of his notes to the Arabian Nights, tells of a sultan who was setting out on a road when one of his standards, happening to strike against a cluster, or Pleiades, as they are called in Arabic, of lamps. He regarded this to be of evil import and was about to abandon the expedition. "O our Lord," said one of his officers, "our standards have reached the Pleiades." The sultan, encouraged by this fortunate suggestion, continued on his way and returned victorious.